Hello, beauties. Welcome to Moms Unboxed, a podcast where I unbox with you the how-tos, tips, and tricks to empower women to upgrade relationships, intimacy, and parenting. I'm your host, Melanie Caroline, a multi-dimensional woman, life coach, lover, and mom who's made a lot of fucking mistakes. If you want to live a sensual and liberated life, you've come to the right space. Don't forget to follow Moms Unboxed because you don't want to miss an episode. Hi, mamas. How y'all doing? I hope that you're having a fabulous week. And if you're not, I trust that it'll turn around for you. I have a special guest with us this week. I'm so excited. Her name is Shruti Trivedi, and she has an amazing, heartfelt story to share with you mamas who have suffered grief and loss. Shruti, say hello to our guests.
Thank you so much, Melanie, for the kind introduction. I feel honored to be here with you and talking about this topic that's very close to my heart since I've experienced multiple losses. And I'm happy to share my story and just encourage everyone out there who needs help to just get the help and not wait.
Yes, and that's what I love about your story is it's extremely empowering for mothers who have suffered child loss. And although I've experienced grief of my own, I've never experienced the loss of a child. And this is such impactful work that you're doing because many moms who have had loss are lonely and they're searching for someone who has had similar experiences as them, who understands the impacts that it has on your body, your mental health, your heart, and your relationship and the relationship with your children. Can you tell the mamas out there about your story and how it impacted you?
Absolutely. So I'm blessed with three beautiful children. I have two girls who are 15 and 11, and I have a 6-year-old boy. However, I have also lost three babies, and it's just changed me forever with those losses. My first miscarriage was back in 2011. It was New Year's Eve. We were actually going to announce that we are expecting. We were going to a party, and that same morning, um, I had my OBGYN appointment, and the doctor said there's no heartbeat, and that I had to terminate the pregnancy. I I recall when the doctor was explaining that, you know, you have to do this today. I was trying to talk to her about, you know what, I have a party. I have to go to this party. I have to announce that I'm pregnant. She had to take me up and say, Shruti, there's nothing that can be done. There's no heartbeat. At 9 weeks, the baby's supposed to have a heartbeat. That means you have to terminate it. I couldn't fathom what happened. They sent me home with a pill. And I was just staring at the pill like, what am I supposed to do? I had backpacks, suitcases laid out um, to pack and go for the party. And that evening, I had to take the pill. And I as I'm talking right now, I can still distinctly see myself in that bathroom. I passed a red blob that I had to flush. My hands were shaking and shivering. And the worst part was my 2-year-old daughter watching me. My husband was hugging her tightly so that he was there to support me. At the same time, my 2-year-old didn't understand, but I was screaming in pain. And that's how I spent my New Year's Eve on December 31st, 2011. That experience, I I thought, okay, I have my family and, family support, and I ignored it. Like things will be fine. And just started looking for a job. I put myself into work and completely ignored it. But every year since then, July 28th was my due date. And I kept on remembering my baby, but I still didn't understand like how to grieve for something that I didn't even get to hold. I had no idea like how to grieve and what even grief meant at that time for pregnancy loss. Grief in general, we are all going to lose people, and we are going to continue to experience grief in life. But especially with pregnancy loss, I didn't understand how to talk to people, how to say that I lost a baby, how I had a miscarriage. The second pregnancy loss, I I was expecting identical twin boys, and they were troublemakers since the beginning. They initially, the first appointment, the doctor said they were going to be conjoined twins, and again it was very stressing for us. And then the second appointment says no, 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 they have their own amniotic sacs, they are all good. At 18 weeks, they were diagnosed with twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, and that meant that one baby is receiving more nutrition than the other. I was rushed to the Johns Hopkins Hospital where they performed a laser surgery, which was successful. However, there was a slight membrane tear, but the surgeon himself said that it should be fine. A week later, my water broke. And I was yet again told at 19 weeks to terminate the pregnancy. And at that time, I was like, no, I want to give them a chance. And the options given by the doctor were either you give them a chance, but there's a very 1% chance they'll make it, or it can also affect your own life. So you have to be mindful of what decision you make. But there is a chance that you can try and give them a chance. So I said, yes, I want to give them a chance. I came back home. I was put on strict bed rest. In a couple of weeks, at 23 weeks, it was my daughter's 7th birthday. She was more cheerful for me, my eldest daughter, even though I was on bed rest, she was like, Mama, let's celebrate my birthday. I'll bring the cake to your room. Let's decorate your room. And that afternoon, I went into labor. I had to deliver the babies on her birthday. My babies lived for 2 hours. I had picked out their names. And that was a very peaceful night, yet extremely heartbreaking. Even though I got to hold them, it just felt they were taken away from me again. And while I was discharging, the nurse handed me a big packet of grief support and resources. I came back home, I trashed it because I thought I have my family. My mother had flown all the way from India. My sister, my brother-in-law, my in-laws. I had a full house with people supporting me here and my family. I thought I don't need any grief support. And then a couple of years later, again, every year, the same dates. I remember it was from the Memorial Day to my daughter's birthday. Every month, I would have those panic attacks. I would remember every single day. June 11th, this happened. June 17th, this happened. And I didn't know, why is it happening? The following year, I was fortunate enough that I got conceived again and my baby boy was born. So I kept on convincing myself, yes, my 2 boys are back as one life. A nice way of saying like, okay, now your boys are back. But that didn't help. And I still was like, I want my boy and I want my twins. And I want the one from 2011 too. And that was not happening. So still I couldn't understand why it's happening. And I told myself that, I just like to create problems maybe. And I have everything in life. I have a job, I have a family, I have a house to live in. We are financially stable. I have 3 beautiful kids. I still want my babies that I don't have. Finally, 11 years later, in 2022, my company was offering complimentary therapy sessions, and I decided to try. because it was not helping still until then. I'm like, let me give it a try. The therapist is just going to tell me, you know what, you just want to create problems. So let's let's not talk. You have everything in life. That's the attitude I went with therapy. The therapist was shocked that I ignored my mental health for so long. And that gave me validation at that time. Like, okay, my feelings, whatever I'm feeling, like if I'm running to the bathroom in between a meeting or and crying, that's valid. That's normal. And 1 year into therapy is completely changed me, transformed me into the person who I am today. And that's just, I think that also made me a huge advocate of mental health. And then I got into life coaching, which is I finally identified what I really love to do. It's also a way to honor my babies. So that's my story.
Mm. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing with me and our guests about your story. It's truly, it's heartbreaking, especially me being a mom of twins, just imagining not having them and that grief that you went through. And I wanted to touch on something because you made such a good point where, you experienced the loss of your singleton and you just shove the grief aside and you just put yourself into your work and your family and doing mode and resisting the part of you that needed to be acknowledged, those emotions that were there. And so many women and men even who are not able to be vulnerable with the deeper parts of themselves and acknowledge the trauma, because it's very traumatic to lose a child, multiple children even. And when we resist those emotions, it's not like they just go away. It actually festers within and it expands, and it presents itself in a different way when we're not able to acknowledge those feelings in a healthy way. Like you said, you started having panic attacks a lot and crying between meetings, and you didn't understand at that time why. It's because there was this part of you that needed to be loved and held and understood and healed. And it impacted your life through and through, your experience in your relationship and during work time, and all facets of your life, until you realized it's not uncommon to have those emotions, especially with such loss and grief. And when you started going to therapy is when you started to heal and recognize that that part of you who is experiencing the grief, that was completely normal. So I just wanted to point that out because so many of us resist those difficult emotions because it is so hard. It's sometimes easier to resist it than it is to allow ourselves to cry, to scream, to heal through those things. But at some point in time, everything surfaces.
Yeah. The term I coined, or I might have read it somewhere, mental tumor. That if you keep it inside, it's not that it's gone. It's going to grow inside, and then it might show in some form of physical health issue. Yeah, it stays inside and it keeps on growing, and then it comes into either forms of frustration, or I recall multiple nights going crying to sleep, or waking up in the night looking at the ceiling crying to sleep. Like especially the side of the bedroom that I was on bed rest for, I couldn't lie down on that side because I used to watch this wall clock on I still have that wall clock. Oh, it was a peacock wall clock in front of me. I used to stare at that, and it was traumatic to me to sleep on that side of the bed. I changed the side of my bed. So it's just so difficult at times. It took me a very long time to accept. that I have a problem.
And I wouldn't even say it's a problem. It was just that's how you knew how to process your emotions and you were doing the best you could at that time. Now, explain to us, how did that impact your relationship? Did your husband realize the significance and the weight of the grief that you were feeling?
So with me and my husband, I think men also have a different way of grieving. Um, and it's also set by the society, right? I mean, since from a younger time, like boys are being told don't cry. So I think as they grow into adulthood, and especially with such kind of loss, I recall there were times where my husband was told, you have to be the strong one for your wife. So you cannot cry, or you have to be there for her. So he didn't even get a chance to express himself. I recall after his discharge, I used to lay down on my bed and he used to come and sit next to me, not talking anything and just being there for me. That's how the and really not much conversation, because he had his own things going on that he had to live up to those expectations or other people's expectations. So he didn't grieve so that he could support me. Um, and yeah, I think it was just years later when I finally decided to seek therapy. I talked to him about it, and he was like, "Yes, if you still feel it, go for it. I'm supportive of that." And I think that was really meaningful of him to support me that I chose therapy. He did not push back and say, "Okay, why do you want it?" Like 5 years later, after I lost my babies, he was like, "All for it. Go get the help you want. I'm here to, support you." So that really felt meaningful for me. But I think the society expectations I, I feel they could be changed, where like men grieving is a whole another topic about babies, because they don't know how to grieve. They have to be there for the mother, so the mother can at least cry. The men are not even allowed to cry, and that needs to change.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, especially like, you talk about this societal gender norm where men have to be the strong one and men don't have feelings. And if they have feelings, then they get called other terrible names for showing their emotions and expressing themselves. But right now, there's this shift where I think women are starting to realize that it's okay to give our young boys permission to express their emotions and to feel and not resist the emotions. And crying helps us process. It's our body's way of releasing the emotion, and that allows more room for love and compassion within ourselves. And just think about, if two partners can heal together in their grief, how much more open and vulnerable they can be together. That's only going to amplify their relationship. And I love that your husband was a physical support to you. Mm-hmm.
Um, and the way of honoring them when I finally decided my business name and things like that just made it complete, that they'll be with me forever.
I love that. Tell the guests, what your coaching name means and how that's impacting your business.
Sure. So my business name is, I'm a certified life coach, and my business name is Tulsi Heals Life Coaching. And Tulsi is a holy Indian basil plant that we Indians pray to. So since taking therapy, my therapist recommended, like, do do something for your boys to honor them. For the past couple of years, I had been planting two identical tulsi plants in two identical pots. So they bloom every summer and they go back in fall. But those pots really mean a lot to me when I can just stroll through the deck and I can talk to those plants. I eat some leaves sometimes, or just they make me feel closer to them.
I love that.
I remember that one afternoon, I was thinking of a name for my life coaching business, and I was standing next to these plants, and I was like, Tulsi, it has to be something with that. And then one of my besties just said, add some verb to it so that it kind of makes sense. So and I'm like, healing, right? The perfect word. And that's how Tulsi Heals Life Coaching was born.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's important to note that when we are going through grief, finding a way to honor the grief, the emotions, but also the loss that you've experienced. And although I've never lost a child, my brother was 4 months old when he passed away. And
So
for so long, for almost 3 decades, I carried that grief because I genuinely thought it was my fault for the reason why he passed away. And I later found myself driving past the cemetery where he's buried. Like he's buried 10 minutes away from me. And I just felt so much grief every time I drive by the cemetery. And I actually needed to find a way to honor him, to heal myself and release that guilt that it was my fault. And I started the podcast on his birthday. So finding ways to honor the people that we love and cherish and we've lost is such a beautiful way of remembering them, and especially with your plants and that you see them blooming and you eat the leaves off the plant. That's such a beautiful way to honor your twins. And I'm just so grateful that we can find ways to honor our loss and we can find some semblance of joy in those moments.
absolutely. I mean, first of all, I'm sorry to hear your loss. It, I can understand how traumatic that can be. And the blame portion that you mentioned, I remember during the therapy sessions, I have written down when my therapist told me to do some writing exercises, I've wrote in bold in caps, I killed my babies because I did something. So I that guilt just makes you feel like you're the most hopeless, useless person. And you feel like giving up because that feeling is so bad, horrible when you when you blame yourself for a loss. So I completely understand that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for moms out there who have experienced child loss and are blaming themselves right now?
So yeah, I mean there will be multiple signs. Um, you feel blame is one that we just talked about. Look for the symptoms, like you're feeling out of regular. And I usually go by this concept called acknowledge, accept, and address, the three A's. Acknowledge those feelings, whatever that feeling might be: anger, frustration, guilt. First, acknowledge them, accept those feelings, whatever again those may be. And then you have to complete the third one: address them, take help. I know there is huge stigma around mental health, which is more talked about now, but there is still stigma. I when I started therapy, I used to tell my team, I'm going for an errand. I have a doctor's appointment, I have a bank appointment, I have a tire repair appointment for all my sessions. I have lied through it because I was embarrassed myself. It's only, I think, uh, last year, maybe, or the year before, I was confident enough to say, today is my therapy appointment. I'm taking off for 1 hour. And I think because we have built again this with the physical health, we don't have any. I have fever, I'm taking off. I have stomach bug, I'm taking off. We are very comfortable. When it comes to mental health, there is still a lot of stigma. And that's the reason we don't seek help. We Most of us have a physician, a specialist, but we don't have and most of us don't have a therapist. My eventual goal is also to normalize um, therapy so that we all need to have a therapist and do some preventive therapy as well. So going back to your question, I think just follow the 3 A's is my advice to all the people, like acknowledge, accept, and address, and talk to your near and dear ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find a mix of people. There'll be really close, good friends who might say, "Oh, this is all BS. You just want to create problems." But you will find your people who will say your feelings matter, and I'm here to support you. So find that right person in your life, confide in them, and yeah, go get the help you need. And I'm here to
Absolutely.
if anybody needs to talk, that's what my life goal is now, to normalize the conversation and just help people get the help they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And tell our guests how they can find you if they are struggling and needing support.
Absolutely. I am on all those, most of the social media platforms that people can follow. And people can reach out to me and book some time with me to see how I can help them. So that's going to be a Calendly link that I can definitely share with you, Melanie. And yeah, let's do this together. Let's break the mental health stigma together. Let's normalize talking about pregnancy life loss together, and just again, the way to honor them is I think just gets more meaningful and goes to the next level. So let's all do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with us. And for those who are listening, I will put Shruti's contacts in the description episode for you all to have access to her. She is able, willing, and ready to help you process loss and move through that grief so that you can find a deeper love for yourself and move through any forgiveness that needs to be had. And I just want you mamas out there to know that you are not alone in your loss and your grief. There are people who love you and are here to support you. And I know this was a heavier topic, mamas, but this needs to be had. And having these more difficult conversations needs to be normalized so that we can heal as a collective and we can grow and love and honor one another in our transformation. Thank you so much, mamas, for joining me this week. And don't forget to live a liberated, sensual, and unboxed life. Until the next time. Thank you again for listening to Moms Unboxed. Please don't forget to share this episode with all your mommy friends and follow me on Instagram at Moms Unboxed Podcast. Tune in next Thursday for another juicy episode. Until the next time, sunshine.